Committee, and this officially calls our meeting to order of January 5th, 2023. I think that's the first time I've said that out loud. All right, so we have a long agenda. We're going to earn our paycheck today as volunteers, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first item of business is not really official. I'd just like to introduce Kate McDonald, who's a civil engineer. And I just want to ask her to say a couple things about herself, or 3 or 4 things, just so everybody can get to know her.
That's quite a few things. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a civil engineer. I work for CSDG in Nashville. I've been in Nashville now for about 7 years, working as a civil engineer, graduated from Penn State University, and I'm excited to be here. So thank y'all for having me.
Excellent. Always glad to get new and diverse and smart Penn State graduates on our committee. Okay, so our first 2 items of business are to address our meeting minutes and our decision letters. And want to encourage everyone on the committee to take this kind of publicly noticed time to review the minutes and decision letters. So we'll take a short break to give everyone a chance to see if they have any edits or see any technical corrections to the decision letter and the minutes. I think we have 1 decision letter. And when we get ready, if we have a motion that could combine both of those, if I can incentivize that'll move us along to the next item. So in the interim, if the first variance applicant can come on forward and be seated at the front table. I think is it Gould Boulevard? Is that still the first one?
No, Bounty Club.
Who?
Bounty Club.
Okay, Bounty Club. Are you all the Bounty Club folks? Okay, great. I'll give you the procedures in just a few minutes after we get through some of this preliminary kind of old business.
I'll make a motion to approve the decision letter.
All right, we have anything else?
I don't see the minutes. Take them one at a time.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve the decision letter. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
All right, any seconds?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right. Motion carries. And we have 1 abstention.
Aye.
And a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Camp seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries, 1 abstention. All right, so we have approved minutes and decision letters. Okay, so this is our order of business, and for everyone waiting in the back, we won't have to go through all these. Every one of these steps, we'll have to go through most of them with each of you, but if you'll listen to your legal rights statement that will be read, we won't have to reread it later on, and we'll check with you as you come to make sure you heard it. So we're going to read you a legal statement about your rights of appeal. Staff will introduce the case. We'll give you about 10 minutes to present your proposal. I'll try to give you a 2-minute or 1-minute warning if you get close. Then we'll open up a public hearing. We'll have folks speak for and against if they're here. We'll read emails, read voicemail messages, check outside for banners, make sure we've covered the public hearing aspect. Once we've closed the public hearing, then the committee will start asking you questions, debating your proposal, and then we'll vote. Then we'll move on to the next case. All right? All right.
The election.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. And we do have a pending item that I need to take care of first involving the election of a vice chair for the committee. So, sorry, I forgot all about that. Our previous chair had to leave the committee to fulfill other obligations, and so we have filled a new committee position, but traditionally we look within the committee for a new vice chair. The vice chair is someone that would preside in the meetings in the chair's absence. Could also be someone that potentially could move up to be chair one day, so it kind of gives them some extra preparation to be chair. So are there any nominees from the committee for a vice chair?
I nominate Dr. Janie Camp, if she's so.
It's up to you, Dr. Camp.
I'm going to decline, but thank you. I have not even been on the committee more than almost a year, so I'd like more time. I thought Kabir had expressed interest, so I'd nominate him.
All right, he did. Yeah, all right. All right. Any other nominations? We normally have a slate and vote on the slate. All right. So we have a motion on the table to elect Kabir as the vice chair of our committee, Kabir Sandhu. Did I say your name right? All right. Is there a second on the nomination?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion, a second. Any discussion on the nomination?
Does that mean that this is my last chance to say no?
You get a vote.
Right.
That's about it. Yeah. And this is your last chance.
What a surprise. Yeah. Thank you.
Been nice to hear no before we got the second on the motion, but that's okay. Yeah, but it is your last chance. Yeah. All right. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of the nomination of Kabir Sandhu as our vice chair, say aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, passes. Congratulations.
Wow. Thank you, committee members. Appreciate your confidence.
All right. Okay, so back to the agenda. I apologize for that, so I must be in a hurry to get us going. So, all right, Mr. Bowman is going to read a legal statement. Staff will introduce your case, and then we'll get you started.
Opening statement to the applicant. If you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You are advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied. Case number 1 on the agenda is case 2022-00016, Bounty Club, preliminary variance at 3666 Knight Drive. APN is 049-000-14200. Inspector is Tommy Biggerstaff. Council District 3, Jennifer Gamble. Applicant's request, disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 stream buffer, to allow stream crossings within 1,000 feet, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the stream buffer, and modified buffer signage as necessary. Appellant is the Farm Nashville LLC, represented by Matt Bryant, M2 Group LLC. Comments. Stormwater staff, a hardship was not provided. There are significant unmitigated buffer impacts. TDEC needs to sign off on concurrence of site stream determinations. Codes had no comment provided. Planning, no comment provided. Greenways, no comment provided.
Okay. So this is a preliminary proposal. So typically what we're looking for here are just an early indication of what direction you're going in. The committee's vote does not guarantee that you'll get a variance if it goes in your favor. If it does go in your favor, it's intended just to kind of give you some initial direction on what a preferred direction would be, a likely successful direction with a variance, but it doesn't guarantee that per se. Okay. All right. So if you would like to go ahead and introduce your proposal, if you could start with introductions of each of the members at the table. I won't count that towards your time, just so we know who all's here and what kind of expertise they represent in case we want to ask questions of individual perspectives that you brought to share with us today. But otherwise, I'll start the clock after you finish your introductions.
Sure. Thank you very much. the red.
Hit the, yeah.
Just when you speak.
Okay.
Make sure your mic's on.
I'm gonna let a few other folks speak first, and then I'll get into some more of the technical aspects of the application.
Thank you, Matt, and I'd like to thank the committee for having us here today. My name is Trey Marucci. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for 8 a.m. Golf. We are a golf holding company. We have 10 different companies that range everything from golf media to golf course design and construction. We've built over 450 golf courses around the world through one of our subsidiaries. And for the longest time, we've been looking for a place to build our own golf course for us, because we think we have the expertise and the ability in partnering with someone like Rob to build a truly unique and exceptional golf course. The key to that, however, is finding the right piece of land. And over a 2-year search, dozens and dozens of sites, we finally found the property on Knights Drive in Whites Creek. I truly believe, and we truly believe, that this golf course, due to the wonderful nature of the land, could be an absolute top golf course in the world. We think that the rolling hills and the meandering creeks that are on the property are true assets that we want to work with and utilize, and not really, we don't want to change the land if we don't have to in any way. So we are very excited. We think there's a lot of just uncovered beauty out there. And we picked Rob Collins because of his nature of working with the land as opposed to against it. And I will hand it over to him to go a little deeper into his background.
Thanks, Trey, and thanks for listening to our proposal here today. My name is Rob Collins with King Collins Golf Course Design. I'm a golf course architect. And, a central aspect of our philosophy in designing and building golf courses is to work with the land, not against it, as Trey said, and to fit the features of the golf course, the bunkers, the greens, the tees, et cetera, into the land in a way that integrates softly. We want our golf courses to sit down into the land and look as if they've been there for a long time. Part of my history with golf course architecture is I have a Master of Landscape Architecture from Mississippi State University. And while I was at Mississippi State, I wrote a graduate thesis on wading bird foraging habitat on golf courses. And while that might not be the most interesting subject in the world, it was one that I was quite passionate about, because I believe strongly that golf courses in the built environment can improve in the post-construction environment upon what was there pre-construction. And a big part of that is implementing habitats for wildlife, protecting natural resources. And golf really is something that is played outdoors. Occupies a large green space, has the opportunity to preserve natural resources and improve upon pre-site conditions. An example, the first project we ever had was a golf course in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, called Sweetens Cove Golf Club. It's a 9-hole golf course. Prior to construction, there were 72 acres of highly maintained turf grass. And after construction, we shrank that footprint down to 35 acres, introduced natives, built littoral shelves for wading birds, and now there's a diverse range of habitat and a much more interesting ecological environment post-construction. So these are the type of things that we really focus on in our work, and this opportunity here at the Bounty Club, I believe, as Trey mentioned, is an opportunity to build one of the best golf courses in the world, but also enhance the beauty of that natural environment post-construction and improve on a lot of the features that are there.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Trey. Again, my name is Matt Bryant with M2 Group. I'll start off maybe by addressing a few of the staff comments. Probably the biggest one being, what is our hardship and why are we here today, right? The land comprises of about 363 acres. A good portion of that land, as you can see up on the screen and on this board here, is some mature woodlands. A lot of that contains steep slopes. So, part of our hardship is we're trying to stay out of those mature woodlands and steep slopes and concentrate the course down in the lower lying areas that's quite frankly already been impacted by agriculture. And you'll see the majority of the fairways are in those areas that are already open and free of trees. I think, so really that's the variance is because we're concentrating our development down in those lower areas, we have some opportunities to really take those water courses and make them a part of the course and get closer to that so the golfers can see that and appreciate it. By doing that, though, we feel like we can really improve on the water quality, right? I mean, this has been an agricultural piece of property for the last 20 plus years, relatively unmaintained. There's a lot of stream bank erosion, a lot of cutting that's going on out there in the stream banks. And we feel like, bringing the golf course closer to those areas are going to actually help enhance that, reduce that stream bank erosion, remove invasive species, and come back with some native, grasses and other species that can really help to support that stream bank stabilization. Not to mention it's going to be maintained by the golf course, on a daily basis as opposed to right now where it's not really being maintained very often. Secondly, I feel a lot of the stormwater regulations are obviously written to focus on development, right? Residential development, commercial development. At this time, none of that is proposed for this project. It's a golf course. So we're not coming to you and asking to impact those stream buffers in order to get houses on the property or add impervious area. In fact, the golf course itself is going to have very little impervious area to it other than the facilities that are needed for operation, right? We're going to have a maintenance facility and a clubhouse facility. So there will be some impervious area added to the property, but the majority of the golf course will not even have cart paths. We'll have gravel or some other semi-permeable material for the cart paths at the crossings, but there won't be a traditional cart path all the way through the golf course like you would see, maybe at a regular golf course. So we really think that has the ability to enhance the stormwater quality of the property, right? You're going to have a fairway that will consist of gravel and sand that's going to be, capturing runoff from the property and essentially treating that stormwater before it even gets to the streams. One of the other items that was brought up in the staff comments was TDEC and Army Corps of Engineers. We've had them out at the property. We have Tony Grow here with us this morning as well. He's our environmental consultant. So if you have any specific questions about that, Tony can certainly come up and address those. But felt like we got very positive response from TDEC and Army Corps. They are actually heading back out again next week to take a look at the two ponds that are out on the property. But they were, I won't speak for them, but there was a very positive response about the thought of this being a golf course rather than a housing development, and how that impacts the existing water courses on the property. The other variance that we're asking for is the number of stream crossings. In your code, I think it says that, the stream crossings need to be 1,000 feet or greater apart. We do have some stream crossings that are closer than 1,000 feet. But if you look at the total length of stream on the property, there's about 14,700 feet of stream on the property, and we're asking for 12 stream crossings. So if you do the math, It averages out to be greater than 1,000 feet, but we do have some crossings that are going to be closer than 1,000 feet, mostly just to allow for the flow of the golf course to work and where the holes kind of come together. Those stream crossings, though, will be span crossings for golf carts, right? So there'll be bridge abutments or concrete abutments that get built outside the top of the banks of the streams and spanned with a wooden type bridge, right? There are definitely some existing circular pipe crossings out there as well that we're going to be removing and replacing with span crossings. So we feel like that also has the ability to enhance that water quality. A couple other things. I mean, we are planning on operating. Okay, I'll wrap up. We're planning on operating the course using organic fertilizers. Right, one of the partners in the project has a company that actually provides those types of fertilizers. We feel like that's going to be also a significant benefit to the water quality. I'll close with that. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, appreciate your comments. Well, I'm sure we'll have lots of questions for you. I realize you may not have as many details as you normally would since this is a preliminary, but we tend to operate more on details, so we'll probably be coming back with you about very specific metrics about each individual variance request. We appreciate the broader perspective, though, as well. All right, so at this time, we're going to open up the public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak in favor or against the current proposal. So is there anyone that would like to speak in favor or against? We're going to ask you to come up to the mic, introduce yourself, give us your address, and give you a couple of minutes to state your perspective. Anybody here? All right, seeing none. We have any emails, voicemails, blimps going by with digital readouts?
There is a comment on your tablet from Council Member Jennifer Gamble, who's expresses that she's not in support currently because she hasn't really been contacted. I did talk to quite a few people that live in the neighborhood that are mostly concerned about flooding. Obviously happy that it's not a housing development, but just want some more information, I think. And there was a lot of questions about planning process and, maybe this is an agriculturally zoned property, so do they have to go to planning commission and things like that, which I can't answer some of those questions. There's also the letter from TDEC, which addresses the concerns about the hydrologic determination. That was written some time ago, though, so potentially some of those issues have been resolved or are being resolved, it sounds like.
Okay, so any other public comments that we need to be made aware of?
No, nothing else.
Okay, so that closes our public hearing. So at this time, we'll open it up for the committee to ask questions. Let me just kind of open with a couple of comments, just kind of from an educational perspective. It's kind of a perennial statement I end up making in just about every meeting. The definition of hardship has been kind of defined for us by the State Court of Appeals. A hardship in legal terms in this context means that the landscape has to be some type of hydrogeomorphic anomaly that the original buffer ordinance and stormwater regulations couldn't have envisioned at the time of the writing of the ordinance. I don't think that's the case here. That's probably why staff says that you don't have a legal hardship. You probably have different types of other defined hardships that you described. It is difficult when you're trying to find a site that meets your needs. I think a lot of us who are in that kind of work understand that. That is difficult, but it doesn't really help us with your hardship, your legal hardship case, which is one of the first criteria of making these kind of things work. Secondly, you're asking for four things: disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2, which I assume has most to do with stream crossings and mowing and maintenance. Do you have any idea where and how much of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffers, how many acres, how many linear feet? Do you have any kind of initial metrics around that?
Yes, I have numbers on those.
Okay, can you give us like kind of a total ballpark figure on that?
Sure. Right now, at least where we're at with our current calculations, we've got about 2 acres of the Zone 2 buffer and about 7.8 acres of the Zone 1 buffer. That includes crossings and mowing for fairways and things.
And that's disturbance.
That's disturbance, yes.
Okay.
Now I will say that's the literal square footage area of it. If you'll see in the application, there's quite a bit of those buffers that are already being actively farmed and are already impacted. So we're kind of replacing a hayfield with a fairway, if you will.
So I'll get to the mitigation around that in just a minute.
Sure.
A question about that. So in your second, I heard you say you're going to have 12 stream crossings?
That's correct.
All right. On your third request, mowing and maintenance, I assume the same acreage would apply, or are you wanting to, I heard you make a reference to wanting to get golfers near the water. So does that mean you're going to want to keep the current buffers in their current state and then mow right up to where they're currently forested? Or
No, I think the areas that I described earlier are what the mowing and maintenance would cover. That's the fairway that would be there, right?
And since development triggers essentially the application of the ordinance here, you would be willing to set back from the required distance in the other areas on the fairway and not mow and.
I think so, right? I mean, I think one of the items that we're trying to do is a little bit of buffer averaging, right? We've got some areas where we're needing to encroach into these buffers, but then we have plenty of other areas where we're willing to give more buffer than what is required, right?
Okay. All right. And then you're asking for a modification of buffer signage. What does that mean? What specifically?
I mean, I think I don't think that we would prefer to have, and I don't know what the exact number.
A regulatory sign every 100 feet.
Right. I mean, I think we'd like to do some signage there and some educational things to help the golfers understand what's went into the course design and the operation. But I think we'd like to do signage on the course for certain, but we'd like to have the ability to, tailor it to the specific design of the course.
So the main goal of the signage is just to keep people out of them. So if there's other creative ways to keep people out of them, sometimes we've been amenable to that. So
sure.
Okay. So I guess lastly, typically, not so much for a preliminary, but it's just prudent. It's usually a council representative phone call, some preliminary meetings with the community. This community, I'm surprised there's no one here today. It may be because it's a preliminary. It may be because the council representative has stated opposition against it. They're here a lot when we hear cases in this community. So they enjoy being engaged in these kind of things, need it. So that's one of the things that helps us a lot in making a decision is when we know that
sure.
all the various parties have been involved. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
And so one of the things that one of the options that you'd have, no matter what decision we make today, if we vote in favor or against, maybe a deferral might be more in your interest. It's just to go back and do some of those kind of things, and then come back a little better armed with a direction. Because one of the things we don't want you to do, well, maybe it's not any of our business, but we don't like encouraging people to go forward with something where they're going to invest more money and more time and find out that it's not going to work. So this should be a preliminary assessment that you're on the right track. So,
sure.
Okay. Is that fair? I'm sorry.
So I have reached out to the council lady. We just hadn't reached out to her to this point because, to the question earlier, it doesn't have any zoning change to it. They're not doing subdivision. As a matter of fact, they're consolidating lots. And this has been very preliminary up to this point, checking with the various departments and TDEC and others just to make sure that it would even work at all.
Okay.
But I have reached out to Council Lady Gamble and asked for a meeting, and I'm working with her on another development in her district. So I'm quite familiar with the how active the community is out here.
Yeah, and didn't mean to make it sound like you all were being penalized for not doing that.
Understood.
We do realize you're new to the community, and we want to try to be good initial neighbors. So, all right. Okay. That's all I had. Any other committee members want to comment or speak to this?
Do we know if the ponds are jurisdictional or are they non-jurisdictional?
I believe they'll be jurisdictional. We're not proposing to impact them in any way at the moment.
Okay.
That's part of the reason for the follow-up visit next week with, they got caught up in the holidays and all the rain before the holidays. So, but they wanted to take a look at both of them. But our understanding is, or we've presented them as being jurisdictional.
And which of the three streams they mentioned in their letter are in question? It's 1, 3, and 4. I don't know if they're labeled the same on your drawings. I couldn't find that labeling.
I don't have a copy of their letter, so I don't know.
Okay.
What letter are you referring to?
The one from TDEC.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Okay.
Someone give them a copy.
Can we
of that?
identify which streams those are so we can talk about those buffers?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's stream 1, 3, and 4
It went to the
from
the previous landowner.
Mr. Grove's report.
That's fine. Yeah. Let me hand one of these to
Okay.
Mr. Grow real quick. Just.
I couldn't get the application to open up on my tablet for some reason.
Michael, can you get anything up on the screen in that regard? I imagine you were trying. Sorry.
Yeah, it says error.
Right here. Here's the map.
Oh.
Well, that's one.
1, 3, 4. So.
Sorry for that delay there. First time I've seen this letter. So I believe that let me just make sure I'm saying this right, that there's these two up here by the driving range and this wet weather conveyance right here that I believe that those are the wet weather conveyance 1, 3, and 4. I don't have that specific map with me, but since the date of this letter, TDEC has been out there with Mr. Grow and looked at everything. And seemed to be in concurrence with what he found, but I don't have that in writing from them. So we're working through that for certain.
They're short sections, just from a golf course programming standpoint. I'm assuming if they're streams, it's going to change some of your program. We may be back. I know this is a preliminary, but that's something to note as we discuss this.
And obviously, if they're determined to be streams instead of wet weather conveyances, we'd have a different buffer on them, right? So that would change our scenario. And again, that's why we are here for a preliminary, right? I mean, this is my experience with, there you go, right there. I was not correct in what I said there. So 3 is right here, 4 is right here, and 1 is up by the street. So I apologize for that.
What type of farming practice is there now? Is it pasture or is it cropland?
It's pasture, to my knowledge, within the last year. I don't know if he rotates them, but it's mowed for hay. And there's some livestock on the property, or was livestock on the property. Still there? All right. And really, 1, 3, and 4, I mean, we're obviously still honoring those wet weather conveyances. We're not proposing to relocate them or get rid of them. If they do get reclassified as streams, then I don't really think that would impact the layout of the golf course. Obviously, it might change the fairway limits, if you will, but don't think it would change or reroute an entire hole or anything like that.
Can you speak some to the mitigation? Dr. Galbraith mentioned that briefly earlier. One of the things, and he asked about specifics of the disturbances, what would be impact, and one thing we try and look at is kind of balancing that. So what is your, plans to offset some of the impacts?
Well, I do think we'll plan to come back with a specific buffer management plan, right? Part of the reason we wanted to come here preliminary is we didn't want to do the buffer management plan and then you all say, thanks, but you wasted your time. So I think our proposal is going to be mostly to remove invasive species. There's a lot of privet, there's a lot of hackberries out there, a lot of other material that probably needs to be removed and then replaced with more native species, native grasses. In some cases, maybe lower understory trees, things of that nature that would still, help maintain the water quality of the stream, but sort of enhance the playability of the golf course. So I think when we come back to you the next time around, we'll have a very specific buffer management plan. But if you'll notice in our application, we tried to sort of categorize the different impacts to the buffers. We called them type A, type B, for different scenarios, whether it was parallel or perpendicular or a flyover. I think we would do the same thing with the buffer management plan. It would give, I don't think it's possible necessarily to quantify how many shrubs or trees we're going to plant. I think it would be more indicative of, in areas where we are impacting them, here's the proposed rate at which we would replant them, and here's the materials that we would use to replant them with. Because it's a little bit of this is, an in the field situation where we're not exactly sure what we're going to get into, or you can't even see it until you clear the privet away from it to see what you have. I think their intent is to try and preserve that as much as possible, right? I mean, it doesn't do them any good to create a golf course that is devoid of all vegetation. That's not what they're trying to accomplish. But so I think that buffer management plan will show that, right? It'll be a sort of a typical, or something you'd see in a buffer management plan for a regular development, where it says every 100 feet you're required to have X amount of shrubs, understory trees, and canopy trees. I think that's probably how we would present it back to you, if you think that's acceptable.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't you say that there were some obstructions that y'all are removing as well that exist today? Absolutely, right. So there's old farm culverts and things that have been put in over the years, right, that we're planning on taking out, right? And if there is a crossing that will still occur in those locations, it'll be a span crossing. And if there's not, those will just be removed, right? I mean, over the years, the farmer has put things in place to get around the property to be able to get to different fields. And so we want to get that out of those water courses to help that flow.
What kind of stream crossing structures do you envision in these sites? Will they encapsulate the stream? Will they be set above the stream on two abutments? Will it be your own culverts?
As of right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
As of right now, I think, we'll have at least 2 vehicular crossings, right? We've got a driveway coming in for the maintenance facility and a driveway coming into the clubhouse facility. So those will be span crossings, probably something akin to like a con span crossing, 3-sided crossing. And then the golf cart crossings would be, those would be concrete abutments with wooden decks right, for golf carts. So they would be spans. At this time, I don't think we anticipate any circular pipe or box culvert crossings.
Have you considered any kind of third-party certification as an indicator to the community and others that, what you're going to be doing will be more sustainable, more perpetual, more reliable in terms of the mitigation that Dr. Camp addressed and just in terms of your descriptions of buffer habitat enhancements? Have y'all looked at any kind of third-party certification of the site?
Rob, do you have any thoughts?
Like
on
an
that?
Audubon or a Nature Conservancy or sustainable sites?
We have not discussed that, but I mean, that's certainly something we'd be open to. But not at this time.
I guess our initial hesitation would be that you don't have a clear hardship, and we don't want to encourage you to go forward and waste your time. There is a lot of opportunity for these buffers to be made much better than they are today. It's debatable whether or not a cow pasture and a golf fairways or whether one is better than the other in terms of water quality. A lot of it depends upon the details. On one hand, you could defer and go back and get more community input and come back with a few more details so that we can have a little more confidence that giving you a preliminary vote of support would not waste your time and your money. A second option is, we could give you a preliminary with several conditions and you'd take the risk. The other ones, we'd just turn it down. So
I've got a couple questions and comments before we push them in that direction, but this is going to be a private club.
Correct.
And I'm assuming it'll be very well funded. It's not going to be government funded, being a public club. And
we already have all the funding needed to complete the project.
And so the reason that I'm verifying that is just because the grounds crew that will be always around. I've had a lot of opportunities to play pretty good courses, and I never see a 60-foot unmanaged strip around every water course. I mean, they're more highlighted. I think you mentioned the cow pasture hayfield versus, an enhanced buffer, but what's running through my mind is this isn't going to be farmland forever. I'm thinking is it better for the streams? It's kind of like an alternative buffer. Instead of unmaintained vegetation, it's more very intentional and very managed grass that when you mow it, it's picked up. It's not thrown into the creeks. If it's a subdivision, you're going to end up, one of the benefits of the very high unmowed grass is you drive by and you see trash bags, Coke cans. And, you just see garbage that gets captured by that before it gets in the streams. And so I see the fairways, especially if they have like a sand underlay and then well-maintained grass, is allowing the water to really get in and enhance the streams. And if you look at the pictures, there's a lot of erosion around these, and the pond look kind of just stagnant. And I know that wouldn't be the case. And so I'm thinking of the great jump towards benefiting these streams, and it's not necessarily trying to keep people away from them with the buffer signage so frequently. It's more highlighting them and educating people, and because people are going to hit a golf ball right up next to it, and then they got to drop next to it. Those are the rules of golf, and I see a lot of value environmentally from this. But I guess the other thing is, I struggle a little bit with the hardship because, they're only building on 60% of the site, and it's a lot of it's due to topography. And so they have condensed it down instead of sprawling it out. And so it is take one with the other. And so is that a anomaly? You could argue, yes, you've got a spider web of streams and then steep topography. But, on the other hand, you could probably argue it's not, but it's very rare to see a successful golf course with no water features. And so the last thing we want is y'all not to be successful and the third owner to not have a well-funded maintenance facility. So, anyway, those are just, if we could, I'm speculating on fairways are better than unmanaged buffer. That's kind of on the peripheral of my expertise. So if there's anything y'all could bring demonstrating that, I don't know if it's ever discussed in landscape architecture materials or studies, or I can't help but to think that it has more value than unmanaged areas. But.
I mean, I could talk to that a little bit. I mean, I think that the fairway cross section, right now, most of the areas that are in the stream buffers that we're talking about are mowed grass, right? So I mean, it's getting run over by tractors all the time. It's getting compacted. There's probably a decent amount of runoff that comes off of that. I mean, a fairway, it's like a cake. Quite frankly, it's similar to a bioretention pond or an infiltration trench to some degree, right? Which are typical water quality measures that Metro, uses, right? I mean, it's going to be a layer of, gravel. It's going to be and then capped with sand and a small layer of topsoil to allow that turf grass to grow, right? So, I mean, in essence, that's the fairways are a water quality device, right, that are buffering all these. Now, does it make it better? I think it will. But again, that's my opinion, certainly. So, right now it's just the entire property is unmaintained, right? And to your point, I think this is going to receive the highest level of maintenance possible, right? People that are out here every day, and that's their job, to make sure all the trash is picked up, to make sure grass clippings aren't getting thrown in the streams. If there's, if you're building a course near a water course, you're going to make sure that the stream bank's not eroding, because that could cut into your course and, endanger your investment, right? So if there's stream bank erosion that's occurring, it's going to be addressed immediately. So I think that long term, that's great for the water quality of the whole buffer.
I'd also like to add that, it's a known scientific fact and a part of the practice of landscape architecture that the introduction of native grasses are an important filtration of pollutants and other things. And that's, we will have native grasses along those edges that aren't there right now. And native plant material, in my personal opinion, is a much better part of the buffer than some invasive privet and other species that are doing nothing but allowing the bank to erode. So post-construction, these water conveyances will be in better shape and will have better filtration. And back to Matt's point, by introducing a layer of sand, the cake analogy, you're going to have better filtration through the ground than you have right now. I mean, there's just kind of a clay right now where it's running in. Now this water is going to soak in. It's going to take time to get down. It's going to it's going to filter, and you'll have the added benefit of a plant material along the edge too that improves the buffer.
Okay, so I think we've got quite a bit of clarity on the possibilities and risks, and I also think we got 4 people behind you, 4 cases behind you. So avoidance is always our first goal. Hardships makes it difficult. But when hardships can be offset by a net gain in mitigation, and particularly big net gains, which you have the opportunity to do here, the purpose for the ordinance is preserved. We get healthy buffers. We get better water quality. So I think you all understand kind of what we're looking for. So with a preliminary vote of support. But there is a lot of risk in investing more time, investing more money. And I think we've given you all a lot of insight into how to deal with some of that, with that being your consultants. So
One last piece, just before we make a motion, were there any other comments from staff that need to be rolled into this motion? I know we talked about the buffer disturbance, the signage, the crossings. The quantity of crossings was significant, but small in size. What was the fourth
10
one?
acres, I think you're 7 acres total. You said 7 acres in one area and 2 acres in another.
That was the entire buffer impact, right? I mean, that included the crossings and some of the, the fairways and things that we want to, I mean, we could separate that out if that's a useful number for crossings
Yeah,
and
you
then
gotta tell a lot
everything
of
else.
specifics for a variance when you come back.
I'd just
Mr.
also
Chairman?
like to let you know that historically, we like to see approvals from a lot of the state agencies.
Yeah,
So
come
I
in
just
with
don't
your
want you to Come
permits.
back just to get
Yeah.
deferred until the state permits are further along.
Federal and state,
Understood.
in hand, in writing. Yeah, not just so-and-so told me. We've had people tell us that before. All right, Mr. Hunt.
Yes, sir. One item perhaps to contemplate in this as you go forward is obviously nutrient management. I know there are some programs for golf courses. We work a lot with golf courses. So as you consider what might be in your mitigation toolbox, that would be something you might want to consider.
Yeah, if we don't get a net gain on fertilizer runoff, even if it's organic fertilizer, which cattle manure is, it can reduce water quality. And I have seen, I know the golf business now is not as lucrative as it used to be in the past, and a lot of the reason golf courses are moving towards natural techniques, like was described earlier, is because it saves them a lot of money. So that's something that works in your favor as well. Makes it a more sustainable economic enterprise. All right, so does anyone have a motion with conditions? A preliminary?
Before we do the motion, I just want to make one mention. And I understand that this is a privately owned golf course, but as the chair said, this does not negate how we, but I do highly recommend that you speak with the community because they are actively involved. And I think that goes a long way when you come back, if it's approved, your preliminary plans are approved, that to have the community involvement. I know that community, they are involved in everything, but to note that you're having something that's privately owned that's coming in, you want to make sure at least that the community is encouraged by what you bring in the area.
And Commissioner, that's what I was going to say is we met with all the neighbors. We've got a couple of neighbors that have reached out to the council lady since that letter was written, and we plan to have a community meeting.
All right, Dr. Kemp.
Okay, one more comment as you consider coming back to us, your variance number 4 on the buffer signage. Since you want less signage, I'd encourage you to think about creative ways to address that and think about net gain. If you're asking to reduce signage, is there a creative way you can do education around the buffers and the importance of those around the golf course as people are chasing down their stray balls? Because, we do need some balance there in the net gain if we want to consider that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always felt like beautiful buffers create their own reason for staying out of them. The privet buffers you mentioned earlier, we put a sign up in front of buffers full of privet and hackberry, and we wonder why people want to get in there and make them look different. So, okay. All right. Any kind of motion that maybe could encapsulate all of the different conditional comments, so they have a letter that outlines a higher chance of coming back with a better proposal.
I'll give it a try. I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary with the following conditions. That there is demonstration of community outreach, that there is more detail on the crossings, what the crossings are. The locations have been identified, but that they are spans and identified in the materials. That it is demonstrated where the buffer alterations to the buffers as far as mowing and maintenance, what the alternative buffer is, and demonstrating that the impacts to the buffers have been minimized to the extent that's feasible to the operation.
And the mitigation.
In a mitigation and maintenance plan.
We call those friendly amendments. All right, everybody understand the motion? Did you get that okay, Mr. Bowman? Okay. Do we have a second?
Great motion, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? Preliminary is approved with conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
All right. That only took an hour. That's not your fault. Okay. All right. Gould. 1400 Gould, come on up. We're going to take a quick bathroom break while you're setting up, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's reconvene and get started with the next case. All right, so we're going to go through the same routine as y'all hear your legal rights or your rights of appeal. Okay. All right, so we're going to introduce the case, go through the same routine. I just want to encourage you, we can really only rule on the variance criteria. So, you can talk about the broader aspects of your proposal all you want. It's a little more relevant in a preliminary, but we'll ask you fewer questions if you give us more details on the front end. So that help. It'll just be clarifying questions. It'll go faster. Okay. All right. All right. Mr. Bowman's going to introduce the case, and then we'll get started.
Case number 2 on the agenda is case 2022-00017, 1400 Gould Boulevard, preliminary variance at 1400 Gould Boulevard. APN is 183-000-15100. Inspector is Aaron Scarborough. Council District 33, Antoinette Lee. Applicant's request, disturbance of Zone 2, 20-foot stream buffer for grass paver parking areas, allowance of an existing building in the Zone 2 buffer to remain, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the stream buffer, and modified buffer signage is necessary. Appellant is Lolo Enterprises, LLC, represented by Travis Bonar, W&A Engineering. Comments, Stormwater staff. Staff currently in design discussions with site. Any plantings in Zone 1 should be trees, and the species should be varied so that no one species constitutes 20% of the total. Codes, no comment provided. Planning had no comment provided. Greenways, no comment provided.
Okay, so we're going to give you 10 minutes to make your proposal after you introduce everyone that's here with you, and then we'll open a public hearing, and then we'll have a committee discussion.
My name is Jason Dye. I'm with W&A Engineering. I'm a project manager there. To my right is Owen Penn. He's a staff engineer with W&A as well. And then Danny Simpson with CTK, with Allison Construction. So the project we're working on is located right outside Davidson County. It's in an industrial zoning. The existing building, we're planning to just keep it as it is and not touch it in any portion. That's one of the main requests of this, is to leave the existing building kind of out of this project. The project, there's a lot of benefits to the project as far as the current building, the current site doesn't have any type of detention on it currently. Our proposed plan would be able to have that detention and then actually have water quality as well. This site is pretty narrow road if you've been into this area at all. The cul-de-sac currently, you can't turn around in. And one of the proposals that we're kind of solving with this is we're actually going to upgrade the cul-de-sac to be able to have a full turnaround on that. That will help the whole entire community and the industrial area. The disturbance within Zone 1, mainly we're needing parking. So we're having to add some parking to the north. That's to satisfy the BZA parking minimum. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think
Danny, you want to explain kind of some decline and?
Yeah, CTK actually owns the property across the stream as well. They are wanting to, construct a new studio facility. CTK or Lolo Enterprises is all under the umbrella of Danny Nozell, who is Dolly Parton's manager. The purpose of this studio would be they are looking to have a place to film, hopefully film upcoming either TV movie or movie on Dolly and James Patterson's book. But they also will use that facility for Dolly's podcast and several other things that they actually film for Dolly. So, this is not a Tyler Perry development or studio complex by any means. They are starting out small with the single facility, and hopefully, depending on how that goes, they'll want to grow 2 other sites because there's no room left on this one. So that's pretty much where they're going.
To address the staff comments about the landscape buffer, we're working with our landscape architects to have that a more diverse group plantings. And then I think we're actually going to propose some actual native grasses along where we're planning to remove the gravel. There's a gravel portion beyond the property that we're kind of proposing to remove and basically mitigate as well. Would love to hear any comments or questions that you have about the project.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the efficient delivery. I'm sure all the people behind you appreciate it too. So, all right. We have any, we're going to open up our public hearing now. We have anyone here to speak in favor or against the current proposal? All right. Seeing none, we got any emails, voicemails, trial balloons?
There's a letter from Councilmember Antoinette Lee that I've passed out expressing her support of the project.
Okay.
Nothing else they received.
All right. All right. Seeing that we have no other public comment, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for committee discussion. I'll start with one question. Are you planning to remove any existing trees in your disturbance proposal, or is it primarily in areas where you're already mowing?
There's a few trees to the south near the kind of rear of the building. We're proposing to replace those with some trees along the north side and a couple along the south as well. I think it was under 3 or 4. There's not many, and they're actually, most of them are fairly small.
So you're willing to mitigate those, and are you willing to accept the staff's comment?
Yes.
Okay, and just for clarity, are they just in the Zone 2 as their variance request says, or are they also in the Zone 1? He mentioned the zone 1 in his comments, but his variance
Yeah,
only
I think
says zone 2.
it's just zone 2.
Zone
Just zone
2,
two.
I may have
Okay.
misspoke, I'm sorry.
I can make a few points of clarity on the staff comments as well,
Okay.
if that's helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to do it right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. If you, unless you have something else. Okay. There's a few different things that we've been discussing. Water quality is also a concern. They tried to seek a waiver from the low impact development requirements and were not successful. So there's been some discussion with staff on that. There's been discussion of uncompensated fill in the floodplain potentially. And then also there's the stream on the backside, but there's also a stream that kind of comes from where the existing building is that we're just not sure if it's a stream or wet weather conveyance. So I think a hydrologic determination was in the works to get that.
So if we gave you a preliminary approval today on the conditions of not asking for an exemption from the low impact development design standards, avoiding an uncompensated fill, mitigating the 3 or 4 trees, addressing the staff's comments, continuing with your current other proposals, would that be acceptable? Would that not waste your time going forward? Okay. All right. All right.
I just have a question. So I see on the application, the uncompensated fill, is that part of this variance request or has that been removed?
It should have been part of this variance request.
And that's what confused me was, one of the conditions I threw out at you was, could you avoid the uncompensated
I'm
fill?
sorry.
Okay.
So the problem we're running into is a lot of our fill is actually kind of underneath the building. The building that's being proposed is going to be like a slab on grade. So we're having to build up a lot of that elevation. It's not feasible to have a crawl space with flood vents there to avoid some of that fill. That's kind of why we're running into the fill issue right now.
So you do need, how many cubic yards you talking about?
It's currently 204.
200 now? Okay. That's what?
25 dump trucks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Have you run any sort of modeling or analysis on what the uncompensated fill, what the effect of that is on maybe your neighbors or downstream?
We have not. So all the fill is going to be right where that building is, and we've oversized the pond to compensate for more water holding. Is it still on? Sorry. So that's the hope currently, because outside that building, it's all cut. It's about 50 yards of cut everywhere through the buffer and within that pond. But just due to the minimum building elevation, it's we can't really get by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just be curious for some sort of like evidence that you're not having a negative impact on anybody around you because of the fill.
Yeah, I've been in discussion with Logan some about modeling. We're trying to go back and forth about what's going to be required for that. This low side is just, it's such a low topography. Since we were unsuccessful with our LID, I think one of our issues is we're probably going to have to do something to the north side to store some of the water up there and discharge up there as well. So hoping that it kind of splits the detention instead of having to be all centralized to that low point.
Yeah, the challenge is you got people so close to the stream now that it wouldn't take much to create some harm to your neighbors.
We have been talking about dealing with FloodCon. They have a few devices that are proprietary that we're still going to have to deal with LID, I think, with that as well. But that would control the amount of flow that would be released from the pond at a more scheduled rate instead of just dumping all at once. Hoping that would kind of help as well.
I feel like there's a lot of work to be done, and converting it to a preliminary doesn't really have a whole lot of value. So I don't know how we can take any action on this today.
So you want to defer, or you want us just to give you an up or down vote? If we vote it down, that means you won't be able to come back for a variance. If we defer, that means you can try to avoid the uncompensated fill and then come back with a zone 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think we want to defer until we get our stream determination back and can review that closer. Okay. And if there's any changes that need to be made to the site after that, I think it'd be better just to, want to hear your comments today and get it in front of you guys to hear some feedback.
Yep. All right, do we need a vote on a deferral? Madam Council, okay. All right, so I'll move to defer for 30 days, which is per our regulations. And if you need more time, you can just request more time after that. So is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, next applicant.
Thank you.
That would be 5930 Carl Place, if you want to come on up. Did you all hear your rights of appeal read earlier? If you understand your rights of appeal?
Yes, sir.
You're present for that. Okay, so we'll introduce the case, go through the same process.
Case number 3 on the agenda is case 2022-00018 at 5930 Carl Place. APN is 09106009300. Inspector is Kimberly Hayes. Council District 20, Mary Carolyn Roberts. Applicant's request: disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 floodway buffer, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the stream buffer, and modified buffer signage is necessary. Appellant is Dellen Susan Jeffries, represented by C.J. Merle, 615 Design Group. Comments: Stormwater staff. Previous house had level 3 damage from 2010 flood and was torn down. The parcel was sold by Metro for $10,000 and should remain open space. This site is under enforcement for fill and clearing the buffer. Codes, no comment provided. Planning, no comment provided. Greenway said no comment provided.
Okay, so again, I want to encourage you to, just for the benefit of your own time, everybody else's time behind you, just to stick to the details of your variance request. And so after you've introduced your guests that are here with you today as the kind of the moderator of the group, we'll give you 10 minutes to make your proposal, and then we'll open up public hearing and go through the same process.
Yes, sir. C.J. Merle with 615 Design Group. We have Dale Jeffries, the property owner, and then DeMarco Gaddy. I believe Mr. Jeffries would like to speak first, and then I will take it from there.
Yes, I am Dale Jeffries, the current owner of the property. I own the property next door at 5928 Carl Place. We owned that property when there was a single-family home on 5930 occupied at the time. And so when I got the letter from the Metro saying it was going to be put back on the market because Metro had purchased it for default of taxes, and so I thought it was a good idea. We own the property next door. I had I'm not a developer. I don't do this on a regular basis, so I had no clue that there was buffers on the property or what that would entail. So after finding out this, then I asked CJ and his team to present a plan that we hope will be agreeable with everyone, that will actually enhance the property and leave it in better shape by doing what we're proposing to do. So I'm just here to support this request and ask for y'all's consideration.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'd like to make a couple points. The first point being that when the property was originally, listed and offered to Mr. Jeffries, it was offered at market value. I believe the original price was around $92K. And also, the other point I'd like to make is the floodway buffer's purpose is to preserve the natural vegetation of the floodway. The existing lot, as you can see on the plans, there's an existing tree line. We are not affecting the existing tree line. The existing lot north of the tree line was grass and mowed on a regular basis. The intent would be to build 2 homes, as you see in the plans, and those homes would be built per floodplain requirements. So the finished floor elevation would be at the minimum requirement above base flood elevation. And then we would be also including water quality treatment measures such as modified French drains and pervious pavers to help with the water quality and runoff of the site. The other thing is to the northwest, there's currently 2 to 3 homes that are within the Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffer. And then to the southeast, there are upwards of over 20 homes that are within the Zone 1, Zone 2, and even the floodway or in the surrounding areas. Last thing that I'll say is that in the manual, it states that Metro Water Service staff may allow a large undisturbed floodway to count towards the buffer requirement. And this property is currently plus or minus, it's over 500 linear feet from the actual stream that is to the southwest. So to speak to the variances that we're requesting, obviously everything that I just stated would speak to variance number 1. Variance number 2 would be the continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the buffer. As I stated earlier, the existing tree line would remain. We would only have a 5-foot strip of grass that would be mowed continuously between the tree line and the house, basically to allow for maintenance of that first home next to the tree line. And then the last one, the modified buffer signage. The buffer signage that we're showing would go at the tree line. And as stated before, the buffer in between that tree line and the existing stream is over 500 linear feet and heavily wooded. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, do we have anyone here to speak in favor or against the current proposal? All right, do we have any emails, voicemails, other?
Nope, nothing on this case.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing, open up for the committee comment. Just as a kind of initial review, we've routinely denied proposals like this in the past, Habitat for Humanity sites, low-income housing sites. We've had a lot of applicants who've experienced buying property and running into this situation. And it would be extraordinary for us to approve it for someone now after turning down so many in the past. We'd also be going against quite a bit of legal precedent. So that's kind of our situation. So any other comments from the committee?
Yeah, I know in the past, the only times that we've approved something like this is if it's a renovation in an existing footprint where the floodplain may have changed since the owner had bought it, or if there was no increase in impervious. But this has been grass since 2010. I mean, they bought it in April of 21. I don't think there's been any changes to those maps, and the whole thing's in a buffer. I noticed that you have plans to tear down the house next door and build back 2 as well.
6928, those houses have been constructed.
They've already been built. So say maybe there's an opportunity to capture some of that land and change that project to capture more square footage. But if those have already been built, then that changes that. But I mean, if the hardship seems to be presented as negligence, and that is tough for us.
You cited there were some other houses, they probably predate the ordinance, late 1990s. Even if they have, they should have undergone some kind of enforcement action. They might not have experienced an enforcement action yet, but so we typically don't base these on prior developments in the buffer. So.
Based on aerial photography, it seems like the houses have been there. And to my knowledge, the houses that are within the floodway have not been, or people are still living there. They have not been asked to leave, and they have not been torn down.
Yeah, if they make any changes to those homes, then it'll trigger the ordinance. Significant changes, or demolition for one.
The elevation on 5930 is the same as 5928, so that's I would just encourage the committee to consider approval on it, because when we're finished with the project, it's actually going to enhance the lot and put it in a better position than it's in now. So.
Yes, I don't think anyone would disagree that it would enhance it from a development standpoint, but we're in the buffer and floodplain business. So.
Is there any consideration that would allow it to be in a better position if it? I know in other areas where they build on stilts and stuff and doesn't affect the land as much. Is there anything that you could suggest that might enhance the chances of approval?
So are you asking if having an elevated structure that would less impact the buffer zones might be an option? Not sure about that. I do see that, you're not just proposing one that minimally impacts the buffer zones, but you're proposing two buildings, one of which is impacting zone 1 significantly. So I feel like that's a really hard sell the way it's presented right now.
Yeah, we're not really allowed to be consultants unless we see, some flexibility in a preliminary proposal like this. We don't see a lot of flexibility today. What you could do is ask for a deferral and try to go back and be more creative. It's going to be really hard to make it work, but you're welcome to ask for a deferral, and that'll keep a no vote from shutting the door permanently on your request.
The other comment about these homes is the insurance piece. I mean, even if they're built, I don't know if they're going to be insurable in the zone 1 buffer at least. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that if it's not in the floodway, it can still be insurable because it's in the floodplain. But
I'm not sure. I was just asking a question about whether, if it's even in the zone 1 buffer, you'd be able to get homeowners insurance. Flood insurance, you would? Okay.
There's a lot of times in the past that we've kind of might give consideration to averaging out a zone 2 encroachment, but this, you have such a little area on your site that's outside of buffers. I don't know how you could.
And I think that's obviously where our variance request is coming from. And I think the other thing I'll add is we have no impacts to TDEC buffers. We're so far away from the stream itself that the buffers associated with those, it's my understanding that the zone 1 and zone 2 buffer of the floodway is a metro requirement.
Yeah.
So from a TDEC standpoint, I think we're in compliance. Obviously, from a FEMA standpoint, it's my understanding that if as long as you adhere to the base flood elevation and your FFE is over that, you should be good. Now, obviously, we still have to maintain flood insurance on the property because it's in the floodplain. Currently, there's no stormwater management occurring on the property. With the proposed plan, we would have, like I said, infiltration measures that would reduce runoff for the property into the buffer. and would be open to additional plantings within the buffer on our property as well, if Metro Water Services deemed it was necessary.
Well, there's not room on the property to get a net gain. I think that's part of the challenge as well.
Net gain of vegetation?
Yes, net gain of buffer. But irregardless, I've also seen other proposals come through here, where they were only impacting the zone 2, and because they were impacting most or all of the zone 2, they were turned down. We're typically trying to work with folks when there's a small encroachment.
Yeah. So would you say that the committee would be amenable if we enhanced the zone 1 buffer and only impacted zone 2? With a follow-up.
If you stayed out of most of the
If we
zone
stayed out of, I guess, completely zone 1 and enhanced, basically extended the tree line.
I've not seen us approve that kind of proposal before if most of the zone 2 is intruded on as well. It would have to be only a partial. That's part of what the 2 other commissioners were addressing there, was that your site is so constricted as basically a stream buffer site.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've had folks come here who've bought land out of state and not be able to develop it because Metro protects these buffers for the benefit of the community. So to absorb flood water, to filter stormwater, to reduce impacts on people downstream.
That's understood. I just think that if they wanted to keep, it reserved as a stream buffer, that they should not have sold the property at all. Just because it was not clear to the purchaser that there was buffers on the property.
We can't give you legal advice, per se. That would upset me as an individual, not as a representative of this committee. If I had bought property under that high economic pretense. Okay. All right, so what's the committee's position? Waiting to see on the deferral. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to defer?
So that's not enough.
I mean, even if we were to vote it down, you could come back with a totally different variance proposal, but a deferral would be the most flexibility.
I believe we'll move forward with a deferral.
Okay. All right, so I move for a deferral. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Just one last piece, and this is to your point about us not being consultants, but if you still own the property next door, it'd be interesting to see if you can combine the 2 properties and shift that northernmost house or the easternmost house over and get rid of the side setback and get it out of the buffer, if there's a way to do that.
He's already built 2 on the northern property in the last year.
And they've already sold, but it's not your property anymore.
It is still my property.
It is still your property.
You can't build.
Right. It's one property with 2. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
He went through the infill process, so anything over the 2 units would.
Yeah.
But just from zoning, you can only build 2.
But if they combine the 2 properties into one, you have larger acreage.
Basically consolidate.
Okay, still not.
It turns it into a multifamily building.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd have to rezone it, but you could potentially get approval for it.
A cottage development, an SP on it.
Unless you were to subdivide between the 2 existing buildings and combine that second property, but then you would have to get a variance for the separation from the existing boundary.
Yeah. I'm just throwing the whole wagon at it. So,
Thank you.
Okay. No more discussion for me.
Okay, yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? You're granted your deferral.
Thanks for your
Just
time.
encourage you to engage staff lengthily before you come back and pursue your other options as well.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your time. I think the fact that you got a deferral shows that we at least empathize with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next applicant is 195 Moultrie Park. Did you all hear your legal rights, your rights of appeal earlier? Okay. All right, so we're going to go through the same routine. Are all those people with you that are moving up as an audience? Okay. We don't usually get an audience move up with a applicant, so that's a new dynamic. All right, that makes it more interesting. All right, Mr. Bowman.
Case number 4 on the agenda is case 2022-00019, 195 Moultrie Park. APN is 116080H19500C0. Inspector is Kimberly Hayes. Council District 25, Russ Pulley. Applicant's request: disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 floodway buffer, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the floodway buffer. Modified buffer signage is necessary. Appellant is Keith and Deborah Pitts, represented by Peter Romano, Labella Associates. Comments: Stormwater staff. Previous variance was granted for rebuilding the porch. The current variance request is to rebuild the house. Codes, no comment provided. Planning had no comment provided. Greenways, no comment provided.
All right, so if you'll introduce your guests with you at the table, you don't have to introduce folks behind you, but we'll give you 10 minutes after your introductions.
Thank you.
And each of you will have to push that red button, or Mr. Lindsay will have to get up multiple times.
Great.
We like him to be comfortable.
My name's Peter Romano with Labella Associates, a civil engineer on the project. And with me, we have the design team, architecture design team, and landscape architect design team. As Logan pointed out, we were before this board back in February 2022. You probably remember that. And for Ms. McDonald, I can kind of review quickly what the history was. But we did ask for 3 variances back then, and what the project was that at that time was to remove a portion of the back portion of the house, which was in the floodplain, obviously, and then also within the Zone 1, Zone 2 buffer. The applicant wanted to then rebuild that same portion of the house and keep the existing house as is. The board, reviewed the project, and the uniqueness about this application is that this part of the Sugar Hill Creek is it's a full concrete waterway. Even though it's regulated as a blue line stream, it's fully concrete. So there is really minimal intrinsic value. However, that still didn't let us get away from coming for variances. And as you mentioned, the board did grant those variances. Subsequently to the approval in 22, the owners challenged the design team to do better. And, we spent many months going over different scenarios of how we could do better with not just the floodplain, but the buffer, and also raising the finished floor. So what we found that was kind of a win solution for everybody was to remove the house, demolish the house entirely, and then rebuild the house with a finished floor elevation that was consistent with the Metro guidelines of 4 feet above the floodplain elevation. In addition to that, the house that obviously the house still remains in the floodplain. We can't really move it out of the floodplain due to the nature of the existing conditions. Flood vents will be placed in the house or underneath in the crawl space to allow additional volume of the floodplain. And then we have a very substantial buffer plan that the landscape architect could speak about. So as Logan mentioned, at this time, the project has been revised to eliminate the need for a finished floor variance. We are seeking disturbance in the Zone 1 and Zone 2, along with the signage. And real quick, I just wanted to point out that there is a reduction in impervious area. That was one of the challenges that the owners asked us to have. So we have a slight decrease in impervious area. In addition to, we are eliminating the porch that is off the back of the house. So that porch is now being fully removed. So what that does, that has a net gain of the buffer. And that's, you can see it from the planning plan, that's being planted significantly. And then additionally, I think, like I said, man, where was I going? I was going to say we have about 3,200 cubic feet of additional flood volume that is going to be gained due to the project. With that being said, I'd be happy to hear any questions the board might have or clarifications. And we have the design team present here to discuss some of the aspects if needed.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, so at this time, I'll open up the public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak in favor or against the current proposal. All right, seeing none. Do we have any emails, phone calls, voicemails, billboards have gone up in the last day or two?
We do not have anything on this case.
Okay, we have no other comments, so we'll close the public hearing and open it up for committee discussion. Just to clarify a couple of details, this was a previously developed lot that you're redeveloping?
Correct. This is the existing condition lot along Sugar Creek. The whole subdivision was built a long time ago, which I think predates the current regulations. As you can see, this type of development with the context of the houses and where they are probably would have a hard time getting approved today. There is. Yeah. So there is some precedents already set, and I think if we could pull up, I brought a PDF on the zip drive that has a contextual neighborhood plan that gives some elevation views. And one of the uniqueness things is, like I said, there's the concrete. Sugar Creek is actually concrete, and there's a very minimal buffer by all the houses on this in this subdivision. Secondly, the other thing that is kind of unique is that there's solid walls for all the foundations along the creek, and so this project is really trying to take advantage of the crawl space beneath by putting flood vents and increasing the volume of the floodplain. And so this plan that you see in front of you, this is the contextual plan that just wanted to quickly speak about. The view on the top, you kind of see the red dotted line is the 195 property, and then those are the properties on either side. You can kind of see really there's minimal buffer, minimal plantings, and then there's also solid walls that really prevent the flow of or impact the flow of floodwater. And then just further down the very bottom, you can kind of see contextual nature of the properties. I'm not sure why those are gray on the right, but anyways, the house is being rebuilt pretty much in context with development, as far as, being consistent with the front of the other houses. But we are pulling, like I said, the patio that is existing, that is being removed. And thus we're creating a net gain of the buffer.
Okay. Just a frame of reference. I think we approved a similar one like this in this neighborhood. Our primary concerns then were just not creating more flooding and not exposing the home to more flooding, and they seem to have dealt with that well. We'll have some discussion to make sure you've dealt with that well here from our engineers, but we always want to see these projects try to make the buffer better.
Right.
And even though it's a redevelopment, we do like to try to recoup something if we can't recoup the whole buffer.
Agreed.
So as long as y'all are doing that, that helps a lot.
And that was the challenge that the owners brought to the design team. And I think the plan we have now is much better.
Yep.
It provides more enhancement than what was previously approved.
Hopefully it'll set an example for your neighbors.
Yes.
All right, which you already addressed. All right, thank you.
I recall the last time our biggest heartburn was really about the finished floor being below the elevation, which is now corrected, and the big driver was a consistent elevation just for maneuverability.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the raise and rebuild helps alleviate that, even though that's not really our problem. It's kind of an owner decision, but I like that it is increasing volume, increasing green space. I can't recall if there was anything tagged to the other one about replantings back in the buffer. I don't know if those are still a part of it, but
there was.
I don't think they had a lot of room.
Yeah. It was minimal with what we had to work with due to the existing patio, and since we removed the existing patio, as you can see, there's now the opportunity to have a more significant palette of arboretum.
Yeah, no, I like it, and even though you got a little bit of increase on the street side, that's the street side. That's not where the water dumps off. So
Right.
removing the impervious on the
Right.
you know,
And one
rear
of the
property that has a lot of value to me.
And one of the side notes, too, that it really doesn't affect the board, but the applicant also challenged the design team that they wanted to try to get cars off the street because there is a problem with parking, and they have now a garage to be able to park their cars. And so they tried to be good neighbors and stewards to the neighborhood in more ways than one.
Great. All right, we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right, got a motion to approve. We have a second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Great, variance approved.
Thank you.
Thanks for the hard work. You see how fast that went, folks?
You can thank the owners.
Work within the ordinance.
The owners really wanted to do better.
Thank you.
2024, you would there.
Thank you.
I recognize the people behind you, too. They were here last time, weren't they, some of them? Yeah, good deal.
Same team.
Your council there can count this as a win, too, so.
He's just making sure
He's been before us before. Okay. All right, so we have our next applicant, our last applicant. Okay, so this is Riverview Drive on the Cumberland River. All right. Wouldn't be a stormwater day if we didn't have a Cumberland River site case. So, all right. So you know your rights of appeal. You all understand. Everybody understands that. And you folks that came up with them, you're with them too as well. Okay. All right. And we're going to introduce the case, go through the same routine, and then we'll debate it.
Case number 5 on the agenda is case 2022-00020-661 Riverview Drive. APN is 101-00003200. Inspector is Kimberly Hayes, Council District 35, Dave Rosenberg. Applicant's request, disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 floodway buffer, allowance of impervious areas to remain in the floodway, Zone 1 and Zone 2 buffer, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the buffer, modified buffer signage as necessary. Appellant is Christine Wilson, represented by Michael Garrigan, Dell & Associates. Comments, Stormwater staff. Staff would like to see additional tree plantings and impervious removal. Codes, no comment provided. Planning had no comment provided. Greenways, no comment provided.
All right. So if you want to introduce your guest, I'll start the clock.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Garrigan with Dell & Associates, and with me is the owner of the property, Ms. Christy Wilson. I want to start by saying that, and I'll get into it a little bit in more detail, but we're okay with all the staff comments. You can see there's an existing house. It's a nice house, very nice house. Swimming pool, walkway down to the river, a deck, a boat dock, what you would call a patio or a pavilion space. But, you know, the majority of it's in the floodway and the buffer. The house sits 1 foot above the base flood elevation, and the house received about 2 feet of water in 2010. And so Ms. Wilson's desire is to demo the house, build a new house that meets the 4 foot above regulation so that, you know, her investment is safe. The only other desire is to keep the pool. As stated in the staff recommendations, the deck, the pavilion that are shown on your drawings, as well as the gravel walkway walking down to the deck that did not show up on the survey, but you can clearly see it on the aerial, all those are gone. So at the end of the day, what you would have is less impervious in the Zone 2 buffer, the same impervious in the Zone 1 buffer, and 0 in the floodway. So just to throw the numbers out there, the floodway itself will be reduced by 550 square feet of impervious area. The Zone 1 will be reduced by 368 square feet of impervious area, and the Zone 2, 240 square feet. So clearly not a green lot, it's a brownfield, and an improvement just on the surface. The second thing we wanted to do is improve the water quality. We've got 3 infill best management practices, a rain garden, a modified French drain, and pervious pavers. Each of the 3 would meet the regulations on their own, but we wanted to put them in series to further help mitigate our request, we'll just say. And so lastly, the additional trees, we're perfectly fine with that. What we are asking is to continue and mow and maintain the Zone 1 and place the buffer signs along the floodway as opposed to the Zone 1. That's the modified, but, we're open to discussion on that. So in summary, the hardship, it's that existing house is there. The existing house, it is above the floodplain, but it was not safe in May 2010. We want to rebuild something slightly less intrusive. We're pursuing a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals to scoot it closer to Riverview Drive to decrease the rooftop and the patio space that are in the Zone 2. The driveway replaced with pervious pavers and minimized in footprint. The addition of the BMPs. So really the only thing that we're asking to stay is the pool. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that efficient delivery. We won't hold Roydell against you. He used to be a committee member here on this committee, so. All right, we'll open up for the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the current proposal? All right, any emails, voicemails, boats floating by us with signs?
No, nothing on this case.
Okay. All right, we'll close the public hearing. All right, so this is a redevelopment. This is, you're not putting a new pool, you're keeping the old pool. Correct. You're willing to accept more mitigation.
Correct.
All right. If this were further upstream in the watershed, trying to get something back in the Zone 1 in terms of dense canopy and dense understory would be really, really important. This far down in the watershed, right on the main river, in this kind of redevelopment case, more mitigation like staff has proposed might be sufficient. It's not ideal. You probably don't want to obstruct your view. It's always better when large rivers, big rivers, small creeks have lots of canopy and lots of buffer. But in this case, since it's a redevelopment, the additional mitigation the staff's asking for might be acceptable to everybody. So, is that a fair summary? Okay.
Wait, so you have pending BZA?
It's past first reading.
The setback variance.
The setback variance passed.
Oh, it did. Okay. So it
is that reflected on this plan, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, have you been here before with another case? Okay. Okay.
Did I hear you say that the amount of impervious area is not changing much, but you're also going to be using like pervious pavers and things like that? Can you?
That's correct. The actual net impervious is going to be decreased by 30%.
Okay.
2,300 square feet.
Yep.
That's for the total lot.
I feel like you've gone above and beyond with the mitigation, just with the different infill practices, and the decrease in impervious area is pretty significant. I'm sure that we would ask in other cases if you looked at any alternative architecture, and I'm sure you have, or nothing that adds enough value to execute. But I don't have a problem with the pool staying. I mean, Yeah, it's not like there's cars dripping oil on the.
You'll have a bigger pool one of these days.
And but the pavilion and the deck out back are being removed?
Yes, sir.
And then but the dock will remain?
The boat dock will remain.
And I'm assuming that's a permitted Corps of Engineer dock. Okay.
What was the original setback, roughly?
It is, but my eyes don't work as good as they used to.
Contextual is 58.
Well, the original house was, I believe it says 35 or 36.3 from the right of way, and the contextual is much further back, of course, but
Okay.
I can't. I'm sorry. That was the proposed is 36. The original is 40. So it's moving forward 4 feet.
Okay.
Mr. Bowman.
Is the equipment for the pool, could that be elevated up to the required elevations? Or is it currently existing in a place where it might be challenging?
It's going to be replaced. To raise it it would have to be about 4 feet above, elevated about 4 feet off existing grade to be a foot above base flood.
Do you think that's possible?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll say I appreciate some of the mitigation efforts that you put in, including a rain garden residential location as part of the development plan. So it's nice to see some of that.
Thank you.
In this.
Appreciate you not asking to not meet the full extra raised floor elevation. So 'cause we've had folks come in and ask not to raise it the full amount. So, all right. Any other comments, questions, premonitions? All right, do we have a motion with, sound like a few conditions, potential conditions? You know, it's just out of curiosity, what's the value of elevating the pool material? I mean, I know what the value to them because they won't have to replace it, but what is the value to the community of raising it? Is there?
It won't end up in the bottom of the Cumberland.
Okay, it won't be dislodged, but that assumes it'll have a solid foundation, right? I mean, it's going to be connected to the ground.
That assumes the guy at the Corps of Engineers was accurate in his establishment of the floodway.
Okay.
Fewer chemicals in the river.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want objects breaking loose going down the river. I mean, that's one of the things that Metro Council added when they banned development of certain structures in the floodway of Metro, because we don't want things dislodging and slamming into somebody's house. As we saw on 7 Mile Creek, we had cars that were picked up in minutes.
Well, you saw a school do that. On
I saw a school building go under I-24 in 2010. Yeah, so yeah. All right.
Is that kind of outside our purview?
Yeah, it's up to y'all. Yeah, I'll go with whatever y'all think.
Great. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance request with the following conditions. The first one being that the existing structures that are within the floodway are to be removed. The pool equipment that is to be placed in the buffer is to be elevated. Was it 4 feet? And was there another condition? Is that it?
The extra mitigation that staff asked for.
And the staff recommendations for mitigation.
Does that meet your needs? All right, we have a motion.
You said the pool equipment elevated 4 feet?
Yes.
I think it's just elevated to meet FEMA, because I think it's only 1 foot.
Yeah, you can just say 1 foot above base flood. 1 foot above base flood.
Yeah.
He's saying 4 feet above the ground from where it is.
Whatever that elevates.
I'll write it.
Is it even worth that? I mean, considering the last flood was going to be over it anyway.
Correct.
Just, you know.
Should I remove that then?
I'm inclined it might be more stable if it's sitting that narrow of a vertical structure. It might be more stable sitting on the ground than it would be less height seems to me would make it more tendency to get knocked over. I don't know. That's just my thinking.
There should be efforts made to ensure that the pool equipment is properly secured
how's that?
and meets regulations.
Well, so was that school.
Okay. Let me read you the motion then. So the motion will be to approve the variance requests as stated with the following clarifications, and those will be, number one, to continue to work with staff to develop a mitigation plan, two, to remove the existing structures that are within the floodway, and three, to ensure that any pool equipment is adequately anchored to a concrete surface that is within the buffer.
Point of clarification, the two structures, the pavilion and the deck, not the
dock or the pool.
Correct.
Yes, that's the understanding. All right, everybody understand the motion? Acceptable? Okay. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? No wise person would discuss that any further. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming prepared. Tell Roy we said hi. I know he's not working with y'all anymore, but all right. I think that concludes all of our business, doesn't it?
I've just got one more item real quick.
Okay.
There's a newest version of the application and checklist. Really the only things that have changed are address change from 800 2nd Avenue Way to 800 President Ronald Reagan Way. And then on the checklist, there was still one item that referenced Miss Penny Gilbert. So it's got my name on there now.
All right. Okay. So, and just as a point of clarification, the Metro Council is proposing to have basically all the at-large positions be nominated by the Metro Council rather than the mayor. There's a new website that has been created to solicit people who are interested in serving in various Metro boards and commissions. I attended a meeting with that council representative, and we all expressed support for diversity on boards. I think our board's doing a lot. I think our mayor's done a really good job of that. We could always do more. But the goal is to ensure that into the future that diversity will continue to represent the community on these boards and look like the community. The counter proposal that I was asked to give them involved trying to give a little more specificity to the basically what previously had been broad representation of lay person representatives on the board. And Metro Water staff had told me that typically they tried to encourage the mayor's office to fill those three positions with legal representation, academic, scientific representation, and a real estate expert. And so I suggested that be made formal in Metro Council's nominees of those positions, with the exception of adding a forester or a landscape architect in place of the academic / science sort of generality. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought a landscape architect or a forester would be a little more precise to our common discussions here. We've never had to my knowledge, a landscape architect or a forester on this committee. So it'll be up to the council. Do anybody have any concerns about that or any other? Feel like I messed up? You don't have to say. That's appropriate. Okay. I apologize for not getting feedback from you, but I can't have that kind of discussion outside of a formally noticed public meeting. So that's why I didn't share it with you. But so we'll see what Metro Council does. So. All right. Anything else? Kate, glad you joined us. You did a great job. Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. You sure did. Yeah, it was. You definitely got muscle memory today. So, and I think you heard about all the various contingencies we have to deal with in one meeting. So
we went on a 6-month run in today, there was a couple that were dead on arrival.
Yeah. Deferrals might not have been in their interest or ours, but, sometimes it's just important to be flexible. So, all right. Any other comments or questions? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I do have a question.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.